Hey, how's everyone doing today? It's Ash Coyote here. In this episode, we're going to be going through the 5 steps to creating your very own fursona, the character that represents you. Trust me, this is easier than you might think. It really is. All it takes is a little bit of elbow grease and some imagination and boom! You're a furry. Instafur! That kind of sounds like a social media platform for furries, maybe? Or maybe some weird sort of cooking device to cook furries. It's like the Instant Pot for furries! Don't know where I was going with that one! Don't do more. But before we get started, I want to hear from you. Tell me about your first fursonas. How did you create them? What inspired them? What would you do differently? Just drop a comment in the comment section below. God, you want to hear original? My first fursona was a black and white wolf named Wolfie. Oh my god. I'm not gonna say cringeworthy, but let's just say I lacked imagination as a kid. I'm making a wolf character. I'm gonna name it Wolfie. Wolfie! Because it sounds cute. And it totally fits. And you forget that there's like 1,000 Wolfies already in the fandom, right? Alright, here we go. The 5 steps to creating your fursona. From concept to fursuit. Here we go. You ready? I am so excited to share this with you. Oh my god. So picking a species is quite possibly the most important aspect of picking your fursona. It's the part that really kind of defines who you are. Now, a lot of people have questions. How do you find the species for your fursona? How do you figure it out? Well, that can be a little bit of a challenge. When you're trying to design your fursona for the first time, when you're trying to figure out what fits you, you're going to have to kind of go through a lot of different traits of each individual species. So, like, think about it like this. What are character tropes you've heard about foxes? Well, they're sneaky, they're sly, they're, like good at getting into trouble and stuff. So a lot of new furries kind of gravitate towards dogs and cats. I mean, it makes sense. A lot of people grow up around different pets, different dogs, different cats that they might interact with. And for them, it's kind of like an easy gateway. So they look at maybe their current pet and they're like, hey, I have a pet husky and it has a lot of energy and stuff and I really like that. I want to be like that. So they pick a husky. And, that's perfectly fine and reasonable. The important thing when you're going through this process is finding a character that resonates with you, a character that is you, a character that fits you and your identity. That starts at the species level and is built up from there. Now, there's no real hard and fast rules to all this. It can literally just be an animal that you like. You don't actually have to go online and do this mass character research study on all the different species to find one that fits you exactly. No, it could just be like something you like. I mean, what if you really liked emus? Let's say you wanted to be an emu for your fursona. Well, great. Make it. Make that you. Make that a part of you. That's the cool part about furry. At the end of the day, it's all about your own individualistic experience within the community at large. Alright, so step 2. Decide on the marking. This part is where you get to get creative. This is the fun part. This is one of my favorite parts. So you can do anything you want here. This is literally where you can go wild, add all your flair and flavor to it, and hopefully not turn out like me with my first fursona where I just made a literal black and white wolf. Like, this thing was boring as fuck. Oh my god, it was bad. So, really what you want to do is you want to kind of decide what your character will look like. So you take your core species. Let's say, for argument's sake, you picked a husky. Okay, so huskies have certain patterns and character types that give it away that it's a husky. Now, you don't have to stick to natural. I mean, the cool part about furry is you're adding your own flair to it, right? So, you can add colors and designs and tattoos and really cool things and shapes to the fur that make it very special and very unique. So, one thing you're going to want to look at and want to decide early on is if you want to go for the more naturalistic route or if you want to go the sparkle dog route. Or maybe even somewhere in between. In between is fine. I've seen a lot of fursuits that exist in between. So like an extreme example of a sparkle dog would be like a rainbow husky. And of course on the natural side, you literally end up with a husky that looks like a husky. And then on the in-between, maybe let's say you have a husky that has natural colors, but then like neon blue highlights somewhere, like maybe in their hair, or maybe like a neon blue tattoo kind of design. You can get complex or you can stay simple. It's really just up to you. Let your imagination go wild. So it's important at this step to keep in mind that if you go too complex and you want to get a fursuit in the future, that complexity can cost you a lot of money in the creation of a fursuit. Complexity is the maker's worst enemy, especially when you have really advanced shading and stuff. I mean, if you think about this for a second, I'm not just, like going off on a rant here. There's limited colors and swatches of fur, right? And there's limited ways in which you can blend that fur. And then on top of that, like especially if you're looking at spots or stripes, if you want those to look good, you gotta sew those in. So each one of those stripes is individually cut out, placed in, sewed into the fur, and then it makes the character design. So that time, all that time, you're going to have to pay for when you get your suit made. A good thing to do if you're just looking for inspiration is something I did when I was designing my coyote character, is go around and look at the different animals in your species subsect and see if you can find one that just fits. Take foxes, for example. Foxes come in like every color, shape, and pattern out there. They have browns, they have reds, they have whites, and everything in between. There's marble foxes. Marble foxes are so cute. Have you ever seen those? They're just freaking adorable. I mean, there's such a huge variety of each species that you can kind of go through it and usually find a patterning style that might fit your aesthetic and you might just really fall in love with and like. Ooh, we're on to step 3. Step 3 is awesome. So once you've decided on the markings you want and the species, well, you got to get it all down on paper. And the best way to get it on paper is to use a template. Now, these templates are available for free on the web. I'm going to link them in my description, and you can just download it. Now, the tough part is if you pick a really obscure species, there probably won't be a template available for it, which kind of sucks. I mean, like usually you're going to see your standard canines and felines, but it's a good starting point. Before you ever shell out the money for purchasing a ref sheet or spending money on art and stuff, you need to design your character on paper. And now, like one of the challenges I had when I first got into the fandom is you used to have to do that by text, and you used to have to write that all out and then send it off to an artist who would try and do their best interpretation of that. But with these templates, you could just pop it in Photoshop or take a marker or color it in pencils or anything really and kind of lay out the markings how you would like it and then show the artist what you want and then allow them to kind of interpret it based on that. Now, it does take a little bit of skill, but not a ton. I mean, most people can kind of color and fill in the blanks and at least give people a rough idea of what you're going about. This is a great way to get that hands-on experience when creating your fursona. I love it. And it's something you can do right now. Like literally right now. If you wanted to make your own fursona after watching this video, all you have to do is go follow one of those links, print that out, color it in, and you're there. You're ready to go. You're ready to commission your first piece of art or maybe your fursuit. All right, step 4, commission your first piece of art and or commissioning a professional ref sheet. You've picked out your character, you've designed the markings, you've put it on paper, and now you're ready to get your first piece of art and put your fursona out there for real. Oh, this is where the magic happens. This is what really kind of captures you in all this, because the art is really what fuels our fandom. It's the most amazing part about the fandom. It's a part of the fandom that I love the most. When you're getting ready to commission your first piece of art, and you take this makeshift ref sheet that you made and you send it off to the artist, there's a few important things you need to do. First, be very clear about what it is you want. Be open. Tell them, like, hey, I want this character pose showing XYZ. If you wanted like a really sassy pose, but you don't tell them and they end up just giving you kind of a flat, like 3/4 thing, well, I mean, whose fault is that? You need to communicate, and communication with the artist is super important throughout the process. That is to say, if you don't go for something artistic liberty. That's something that I do a lot personally. So let's say you get the commission slot, you set it in, you've kind of told them the posing, and you send that off, and then you just have to be patient. So be patient, wait for the artist to complete it in their own time. You don't want to rush an artist. Trust me, you really don't. If you rush an artist, you run the risk of getting a bad piece of art. Let them take their time, let them do it right. And finally, this is something that might sound a little odd to some folks, but if you really enjoy that piece of art, if you really enjoy that piece of art that they deliver to you and they give to you, consider giving them a tip. I know it sounds weird. I know not everybody does this, but I personally try and do this whenever I can because this is something that somebody took a lot of time and effort and put into it. And to be completely honest, to be completely frank, a lot of artists make beans on commissions. It's not like they're getting paid the same hourly wage as somebody working in the tech industry. A lot of these people are making around minimum wage or sometimes less on their art. This takes a lot of time. And, like something that I felt personally is a problem in the fandom is a lot of artists undercharge for their work. And so whenever I have that extra money or, like a few extra bucks here or something, and I happen to have commissioned a piece, I always try and pass on just a little bit extra because every little bit counts and we need to support our creators. We need to. I think it's kind of our duty as members of the fandom to support the creators. And if you don't have the money, that's fine too. They understand. But what do you do? Or if you do, it's always a nice thing to do. And one little side note to this step, I know I mentioned commissioning a professional ref sheet. So some people, myself included, like to have professional ref sheets designed for them based on, the rough character design that I present. Because a lot of times artists can take that, interpret it, and enhance it. So if you were to go about this and be like, hey, I have this character I designed on this template, I want you to do a ref sheet for me. And you present that to them, and then they can kind of interpret it for you, and then you can take and get more art. I think it's worth it. It does cost a little bit of money, but it's definitely worth a shot. It's definitely something that you should consider if you're going through this whole process. Oh my god, we're on the last step. So step 5 is honestly a little bit of an optional step. Step 5 is commissioning a fursuit. So a lot of folks, when they get into the fandom, they don't know what they want. They're like, okay, well, I'm in the fandom. I'm furry. Guess what? And, as it filters down, you might develop your OC, you might get art of it, and kind of that final step, that last step of going full furry is getting a fursuit. For some people, not for everybody. I think it's important to note that not every furry wears a fursuit. Not every furry likes fursuits. A lot of people don't even like fursuiting, but to that end, fursuits are kind of the face of the fandom. You see a lot of us out there in the media, and that tends to attract people that might be interested in costuming like this. So the final step, step 5, is commissioning that fursuit and getting that fursuit the way that you want it. So when you're looking to commission a fursuit, the first thing you want to do is you want to make sure that you have a really good, really clear, delineated ref sheet. And that ref sheet is going to be a simplified ref sheet. So different from your character design with all the shading and enhanced details, this is going to be the breakdown for the fursuit maker so that they can piece out the fursuit, accurately quote it, and accurately represent it in the creation that they give to you. Neon Slushy is a great artist. I have a ref sheet that I got from them that worked great for one of my initial early suit designs that I didn't actually end up commissioning. So it's just kind of out there. Anybody want a character design? I don't know. Hit me up in the comments section below. Commissioning a fursuit is drastically different from commissioning art. It's a process that takes a very long time. Upwards of 3 years in some cases. I've heard of longer. It's something that's, you're going to want to be patient on. So, if you first get into the fandom and you're like, I might want a fursuit, check and see who's open. A lot of those deposits are refundable, and it's usually about 20 to 30% of the cost of the final suit. So, if you're like, I might want a fursuit down the line in a few years, go ahead and put in your deposit, pick out a maker, and start getting this process rolling. Do it now. Do it right now. Because by the time that you are actually neck deep in the fandom, like I am, then you'll have a suit and you'll be able to interact on a level that, you want to, perform on the level you want to, be around the people you want to. And, that's kind of just a good idea. Alright, I think that's all we have time for. I hope you enjoyed the episode. Don't forget to like this video if you enjoyed it, subscribe if you're not already, and leave a comment in the comments section below. Tell me about your first ever original character. What you loved about it, what you didn't like about it, things you might change, and maybe some of the process you went about when designing it. I hope you all have a fabulous day. Goodbye.